So everyone, thank you all so much for joining us today for the Getting Started IRB process. My name is Jessie Bowman. I am the Administrative Coordinator for the Office of Undergraduate Research, and I am not hosting today's workshop. We have the amazing Belinda Smith from the Office of Research Integrity, who is going to lead today's training. And without further ado, Ms. Belinda.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. This is a perfect size group. So I welcome you to unmute, ask questions, answer questions. Hopefully we'll have a few more join us, but we can make this very informal, and I will have time at the end for questions and answers. I may ask you questions, you can teach me something, but as we go through, if there's something you want to ask, go ahead and unmute yourself. Feel free just to stop me and say, hey, I want to talk further about this, or I'm not sure where you're coming from, or clarify. So we have a good mix in attendance. Some have had experience with IRB, some heard about it to some extent, and then some absolutely none at all. So that's fine. We're going to all start at the same level. So close this poll and we'll get started. So what we hope to do today is talk a little bit about who the players are in human research protections. Go ahead, stop sharing that. Okay. And then what the roles of ORI and the IRB and investigators, all this acronyms and alphabet soup. What are their roles? What activities need IRB review? So I understand that's been a common question that's come up, and I'm thrilled you're just asking the question. You don't have to know the answers. We'll help with that, but just knowing when to ask the question is 90% of the battle. Thrilled with that. And then we'll talk about the process and resources to help you through that process. So just as an introduction to who is even on the playing field, first of all, there's the Institutional Review Board, or IRB. So this is not necessarily just, say, a class requirement to get IRB approval or an institutional requirement. It's actually a federal requirement. So it's based on federal regulations to have IRB review of human subject research. And we'll talk about what human subject research consists of. But the players there are the principal investigators. And if you submit your own IRB, you'll be a principal investigator or a PI. You would also have your faculty advisor listed as study personnel. Some colleges and departments require the faculty advisor or a faculty member to serve as the PI and the student to be as study personnel. That's just totally dependent on what the college prefers. The IRB doesn't have a requirement either way. So it is highly possible you'll be a PI or principal investigator on your own study. Our office, ORI, Office of Research Integrity, is sort of the liaison between the two. So our role is to facilitate the research, to keep it going, to be the experts in regard to the regulations, which are ever evolving. We just received a big announcement from the Food and Drug Administration this week with some proposed changes in the rules and regulations for FDA. So it's constantly evolving, and we try to do a couple of things. One, we want to educate, but we also want to create a system that helps you be compliant, maybe without you even knowing you're compliant with these layers of requirements. So this is our mission, and it's just to assist UK in maintaining a system of compliance and research integrity recognized for excellence and designed to promote responsible conduct of research. So part of that is our job is to educate, facilitate research that is compliant with the regulatory and ethical framework. And we have basically what's called an assurance with the federal government saying, we're going to do that. Have any idea, anybody can unmute or type in chat, whatever, why we would want to do that. What's that going to get us as an institution? I say type in the chat and I can't see the chat.
Funding.
Funding, absolutely. So federal funding. So part of our job is to ensure that we stay compliant to continue to receive that federal funding. Exactly. Also, we are an accredited human research protection program, and that is definitely recognized by federal sponsors, by industry sponsors. It's very attractive to place research and provide funds to institutions that hold human subject protection at a high standard. And this provides that assurance for them as well. And you're busy, we're busy. So there's a lot of research. It's very active at UK, more than 3,000 active IRB protocols at any time. 1,100 submitted, more than 1,100 submitted last fiscal year, brand new ones. And the IRB is pretty busy. These boards have reviewed more than 16,000 IRB reviews in a fiscal year, and that's our most recent report. And that's good. That's what we want to see. So a little bit of background about what an institutional review board is. If you go to our website, the Office of Research Integrity website, there's a landing page, and it gets you to a lot of areas we work in. Research misconduct, lab archives, which is a sort of a data repository for research. There's a number of areas, but the one for IRB will say Human Research and Institutional Review Board. So here's where you'd click to find anything related to IRB review. At UK, we're fortunate. We have 4 medical IRBs and we have 1 non-medical IRB that handles the campus and college departments. So probably some of you all would submit to the medical based on your college, some the non-medical. And if there's any questions about that, you can let me know. In addition, the regulations define how an IRB operates, what the approval criteria is. I'll show you that in a little bit. Who sits on an IRB? It has to be broad expertise. The more, the better. If the expertise is not sitting at the table, then it's our job to go find consultation from someone that is an expert. And sometimes, students do really novel, cool things. There could be times that you might be doing something really interesting in social media or a phone app or something along those lines. And we may not have the expertise at the table with the IRB at that time, and we would seek some guidance. We, would find someone that's more of an expert in that area to provide consultation. Same thing goes with international populations. We might need to get a consultation for a cultural review to find out, in this particular country that a student is doing research, what's appropriate in regard to informed consent in that culture, okay, or recruitment in that culture. So we do seek consultation where needed. We try to be very diverse, very broad expertise. And the other requirement is that we have on the board scientists and non-scientists that are unaffiliated with the university. So we call these folks community members. They're very special. The IRB cannot meet without the non-scientist at the table. Why do you think that is? Anybody have an idea? I mean, the scientist, you're the scientist. Shouldn't you know what's appropriate to study on people?
You're saying the IRB cannot meet without a non-scientist at the table?
Correct. We do not have quorum unless that community member representation is there. So my question was, why is that important?
Is that it to ensure that proper representation is there?
Exactly. If you look at the history, look at a lot of the cases in the past where there were violations, the scientists were well intended, but there were huge violations or full-blown atrocities that occurred. So we always need, from an ethical perspective, to represent the community and the non-scientist and the layperson. So that individual would look at things like an informed consent document. And if it's written in 19th grade level with a lot of medical terminology, they would say, "Hey, I don't understand this. Nobody's going to get what you're asking them to do. They need to revise this consent form." So they do play a very important role on the IRB, and we're always recruiting. We're always looking for individuals that are interested in serving on the board. I would love to see us have more involvement of students on the non-medical side. The leadership hasn't gone that way so far, but I'm always poking and thinking, that's my thought. Just one of my many soapboxes that I get on now and then. So that's a little background about what an IRB is, who it consists of. As far as the regulatory framework, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail or you'll be asleep in a minute, but just know there are a lot of layers protecting human subjects. So there's ethical tenets that we'll talk about. In addition, there's federal policies, institutional policies. There are several sets of regulations from different federal agencies. So I mentioned FDA is one, Health and Human Services is another. So we have various sets of regulations. Sometimes they harmonize, sometimes they're not exactly the same. And we might need to apply 2 or 3 sets of regulations to a single protocol. So you don't have to know that. You will answer some questions in the application to help us figure that out. Okay. And then even sometimes state laws, local things like that come to play. But we try to inform you of that. So we're going to start out just taking a walk back to, I mentioned in our history in human research, we have a lot of situations that have happened, everything from well-intended errors to major atrocities. And in response to these violations, the federal government came up with a set of ethical principles. It was an ethical code. So it really didn't carry the force of law back at this time in 1979, but it still through today serves as the foundation for our existing current regulations. And it outlines 3 ethical principles. Some of you all may already be familiar with these if you know IRB. And the first is respect for persons. Okay. And these are not in any order of importance. It just tends to be the way people report them. It's how it was outlined in the report. So respect for persons is an individual is treated as an autonomous agent. And you're going to have some folks with limited autonomy. And in those situations, they need extra safeguards. Okay. And we would want to make sure that those are in place. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. I want to get your all's input. Beneficence is really minimizing harm and maximizing the benefit and the well-being. And for this one, we look a lot at risk-benefit ratio for the research. There's not going to be any research that's completely risk-free. So what the IRB has to, at the end of the day, determine is the risk reasonable relative to the potential benefit? Okay, that's the bottom line. And almost always, even with minimal risk research, there's ways to enhance benefit. There's ways to minimize harm. Okay, maybe if we have time, we can talk about some of those as well. And then justice, and that's the risk and the benefits should be distributed fairly. Okay, so we're going to dig into these just a little bit. So if I asked you, how in your research are you going to respect folks? Can you come up with any way to respect people? And I can see the chat if you prefer to put things in there, that's fine.
Informed consent.
Informed consent, perfect. That's actually the first one here. I think. Yeah, it is. Informed consent. So to ask somebody to volunteer, you want to tell them what is involved and you want to ensure they understand what's involved. Another thing would be protecting those vulnerable populations. Talk about those. And respecting people's privacy. So in IRB world, there's privacy and there's confidentiality, and there's the terms are treated a little bit differently, even though it's almost synonymous. But in the IRB application, if it's asking you about privacy, how are you going to respect people's privacy? It's asking you more about the people, okay? If it's asking you how you're going to keep the data or the confidentiality, it's asking you more about the data or the records or the specimens or any of the material that you're collecting, how you're going to keep that confidential. So think confidentiality is more data, privacy, people. Beneficence, we talked reducing risk, maximizing benefit. And one thing that comes down to is you want the study design to produce valid results. If it's not really, the methodology is so messed up that it's not going to give a result that's meaningful, then those individuals' contributions don't mean anything, or they're taking on risk without any potential benefit. So we look a lot at, when we're looking at beneficence, on what's the best study design. And that comes into play a lot more in the, I think, the clinical arena with clinical trials, clinical investigations, interventional studies, even say educational interventions in vulnerable populations like children, that kind of thing. We really don't want to put people at risk without some potential benefit. We can count the scientific knowledge gained as benefit. That's fine. But you do want to have a valid methodology. And we really rely on your faculty advisors a lot for that. Okay, that is, you know, in your particular discipline, they should be the experts on what good methodology is and the scientific design of the study. And justice looks at who's going to be in the study. Who are you targeting? Is it fair? Is it representative of whatever condition or topic you're studying? And will one group take on more risk and another group see the potential benefit, which would not be fair? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share with you just a few illustrations of these. And we'll start out looking at some of the vulnerable populations. So you see yourself on there? You are university students as research subjects. So even in this instance, we have a guidance document that faculty use when enrolling their own students into a research study, into their research. And safeguards they could employ is maybe, you know, making sure that you know that your participation is not going to affect your grade. If they're going to use information like your grades that they have access to, they need to ask your permission, okay? They have access to it for other reasons, not for research. So if they're using your information for research purposes, they need to get your consent. And it may be that if there's potential for undue influence, say the investigator thinks you may not make your own decision based on whether you want to participate, you may want to please them, or you may feel pressured by them to participate, they could have a third party come in and do the informed consent process so that they're not really aware which of you participate and which of you choose not to, so that you don't feel any kind of undue influence to participate or coercion. Others, children, prisoners, adults with impaired consent capacity, non-English speaking, things need to be translated in somebody's reading language that they read and speak. Economically, educationally disadvantaged. So this isn't just the only list. You could even think employees. It goes on, but I mean, these are the ones that we have policies, guidance, or in the case of the first three, they're actual federal regulations for. You don't have to know all this once again. What happens is you come in and complete an IRB application. If you really are targeting and you wanted to go in the prison system and do a survey, great. You just check the box for prisoners, and we would have a prisoner representative that serves on the IRB to review the research, and we'd meet those requirements that way. So basically it's just, you check the boxes, you answer the questions based on what you'd want to do with your research, and then the system and our staff and the IRB will guide you to what you need to do to comply. All right, privacy. Privacy is such a moving target. It's very individual. What I think is private and what my college student son thinks is private, probably going to be very different. So I'm going to share just a couple of examples of situations that have occurred in research in the past.
But the ethical way to conduct research isn't always as clear-cut as some of these examples may make it
Can you hear that
seem.
okay?
Things are often much more difficult to parse out, especially within the context of time, place, and culture. There have been some recent examples of research which tests ethical boundaries. For example, in 2014, it was revealed that Facebook had conducted experiments on their users by manipulating their news feeds to be more positive or negative. The goal was to see to what degree the content of the news feed altered the mood of Facebook users. And Facebook cited their user agreement as having served as obtaining consent from the human subjects. What's more, they were genuinely baffled at the outrage that stemmed from the publication of their results, releasing a statement that read, in part, quote, "None of the data used was associated with a specific person's Facebook account. There is no unnecessary collection of people's data in connection with these research initiatives, and all data is stored securely." Unquote. In other words, they were so focused on the ethics of not collecting specific user data that they didn't even think to address the concerns that their users had about being emotionally manipulated without being asked, notified, or even debriefed. Perhaps a fitting study from another era to compare to this would be the Middlemist Personal Space Study from 1976. In this study, the researchers wanted to determine if a stranger's proximity to one's physical space produces physiological changes. So how did they study this? They measured how males reacted to a research assistant's proximity when urinating at a public restroom urinal. And how did they measure the reaction? They drilled holes in a neighboring stall wall in order to zoom in on the speed and flow of the men's urination in order to determine how much it was affected by the proximity of the research assistant. Now, in 1976, this wasn't considered an unethical study. After all, the identity of the men on the tapes couldn't be revealed. What's more, these men would never be emotionally upset by the study because they would never know that they were involved. What the researchers didn't think of, however, was that the public at large has certain expectations of their right to privacy when they enter a public restroom. And when that privacy is violated, it harms the public at large, if not the individual men who are filmed. These and other similar issues are things that researchers need to be prepared to consider. Advancing technology and ever-changing cultural mores make ethical human research a continually moving target. And regardless of the challenge, it is the responsibility of the researchers, in coordination with the IRB, to make sure every moral aspect of human subject research is being accounted for.
So that's just a couple of examples, but it's tough with privacy. It does vary with the individuals, but being transparent as possible is certainly one of the most important situations. Being clear that, hey, we're doing research here. Say, for instance, if you were going into a support group that's an online chat support group or whatever situation it is, you wouldn't just log on and listen in and get your information. You would want to go through whoever the proctor is or whoever the individual managing that support group online is, and get an introduction, get permission, that type of thing, even if informed consent isn't required. And that brings me to a question: is informed consent always required? Anybody, how many say? You can raise your little hands on there on Zoom if you want. Okay. Most people are saying, yeah, okay, great. All right. So people seem to be bought into the informed consent, and I'm glad to hear that you are. We'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end. Okay, moving on to justice. So I think this is a great illustration for justice. And it's not so much just getting a level playing field. Okay. Equitability is actually trying to make accommodation so that a representative population, a complete representative population, has opportunity to participate. Okay. So it may be making accommodations, like for instance, doing visits in the evenings when individuals who work all day could actually be able to participate, or providing childcare, or making the survey both online and in paper, those type of things, so that you have an equal opportunity to participate. It's also not just getting convenient samples because they're there. That would be another issue. All right, so that's a lot to kind of even digest in and of itself, and it's just the ethics, not even the regulations. But we do provide direction, resources, contacts for navigating all of this. The system itself will help you comply, and we have resources. So for instance, we have a new researcher FAQ, as well as many frequently asked question pages. There's one on the IRB system. There's one in regard to informed consent. So several different FAQs, but just basic questions. This is a great place to start. Okay. Do I need medical or non-medical IRB review? Do I even need IRB review? What if I have concerns or complaints as an investigator? How do I determine if FDA regulations apply to my protocol? So these will help you walk through some of the basics. As far as what needs IRB review, I'm just thrilled that you all are asking the question. So to give you a little bit of background, it's based on federal regulations of the definition of research and human subject. Okay. So for the definition of research is a systematic investigation, including research designed to develop and contribute to generalizable knowledge. So there's some times that you may be doing a systematic investigation, but it might not be to contribute to generalizable knowledge or advanced science. It could be just simple internal quality improvement assessments, that type of thing. And if that's the case, it wouldn't meet the definition of research based on those human regulations. Human subject is even more complex. So it starts out, first of all, it's a living individual about whom an investigator conducting the research obtains, uses, analyzes identifiable information through intervention or interaction with the individual or their identifiable private information. So that is a lot of I words that we can kind of break down. First of all, it says a living individual. So if you were to do research on decedent data, there's probably some rules to follow, but IRB is not the one that has oversight of that. So you would not need IRB review to look at decedent data. Intervention. So let's talk about intervention and interaction. If, let me think of an example. If I were to, I'll think of a silly one so you'll remember it. If I were to wear my Chewbacca mask and do this session, then I am definitely manipulating the environment to see how you act, because I want to find out. And my hypothesis is you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to find out. And so that's my intervention. And intervention doesn't have to be I'm giving you a drug, or I'm testing a device, or I'm doing some kind of medical procedure. It could be I'm testing an education initiative. It could be anything where you are manipulating the environment. Okay, you're changing the environment to see how somebody responds. So that's an intervention. The interaction part is when I ask you about it. So if I ask you, do you think I'm crazy? Then yeah, that's my interaction. So I am doing a survey with you, or I'm doing an interview with you, those types of things. In addition, if I look at your identifiable private information and I use that for research purposes, then you're a human subject. That data that's private and identifiable is also a human subject. Okay, so if it's a specimen, has your name on it, that's a human subject. Okay, it's not public. There are some public databases on the internet that are available for research purposes. If it's public, it's not a human subject. But if it's private, then yeah, human subject. So it's complicated, I know, don't worry. There is a little video. I'm not going to show it to you today, but if you have questions, it's a good place to start. Regardless, what you can do is submit this not human research determination form. It's just a quick survey. You're going to list what you want to do. And one thing that benefits you to do this is if you decided later on, and we've had undergraduates do cool things, and they get asked to present at conferences because of something they've done, or even publish the results. Then if you did not need IRB review, this gives you an official letter on IRB letterhead that says the IRB determined you didn't need IRB review, because those conference managers and those journal editors, first thing they're going to ask is, did you get IRB review for this? So you'd have that letter in hand. Any questions on what needs IRB review before we go on from that? Okay, I don't see anyone or anything in the
Can I
chat.
ask,
Mhm.
does a retrospective chart review also need an IRB? Because it's not some.
It does. And here's the difference. It's identifiable information, and you can see that you see the identifiers. So if you see identifiers, it's a human subject. Now, it may need a low level review. So we'll talk about different levels of IRB review. But here's another option. If you went to an honest broker, so this Center for Clinical and Translational Science has a data trust. And that data trust can pull data for you without the identifiers. If they were to do that, and you were to request it from the data trust, you could fill out this not human research determination form. And what they're going to want to know is there any way that you could readily identify those people? I mean, as long as they're not your patients or something like that, that you could figure out and put 2 and 2 together and figure out who they are, then the IRB could say it's not a human subject. All the identifiers have been stripped by the CCTS. They've acted as the honest broker, and what they are giving you, you could not determine in any way, shape, or form where it came from. So that's a possibility that you could do. If you do see the identifiers, that's fine. Just bring it in as an IRB application. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we have a question in the chat. Does IRB review include tools or technology that humans might use eventually, but humans are not part of the research itself? Ooh, that's good. Do you have an example for that one?
Yes. Over the summer, I saw people doing like research on technology, like AI technology, where they're stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot with apps, artificial intelligence, software. And, if you're testing the software and you're not using a human at all, not in the least, you're not using human data, you're not, private information, then perhaps not. You're just probably tweaking software. The minute that you do start testing it with any individuals, then you would bring it into the IRB. And some of that, a very small amount, but some of it actually meets the definition of an FDA regulated medical device. Those are the types of things that would be the algorithm for the MRI machine to work, or clinical determination software that gives the clinician a diagnosis, those kind of things. It's, not a lot of them, but there are a few. So best to ask, but if you're really not involving any humans at all, and it's just, just basically tweaking software in the beginning, and there's a lot of that preparatory kind of stuff that has to happen before you start the testing. Then once you get involved in humans or with human data, then you'd bring it in. Anything else you all can think of before we move on? All right, I'm going to move through pretty quickly. Training, I'm not going to go into detail, but there's a few trainings that are required in order to obtain IRB review. First one's human subject protection. The next one is actually required for all researchers, not just human researchers. And it's not an IRB requirement, it's a vice president for research requirement. So if you're doing animal research or bench side research, it's all required responsible conduct of research. So those two trainings, and then just a hint, when you get IRB approval, there's a link in every IRB approval letter to a principal investigator's guide to the responsibilities. It's pretty short, very succinct bullets kind of thing. So that's a great download to help you as you go through and conduct your research. So you got your approval, but still want to comply with all those requirements. And lastly, I never do a session without just making a pitch for participating in research yourself, because it's a great way to learn about how to protect human subjects. Be one yourself. There's always studies that are looking for healthy subjects, looking for participants to be involved. You can go to the website here and find out what's available. All right, I'm not going to play this one for you in the interest of time, because I want you to be able to ask any other questions, but this is your homework, okay? So it's on our training and education webpage, and it's also on our getting started webpage, and it's just a 5-minute introduction to IRB. If we end up, there's no questions, we'll come back and watch it. But to me, this is going to cover pretty much everything you need to know to get it started. Okay. So remember, the Welcome to the Office of Research Integrity is your intro video. Now the process. So when you submit an application, our office is going to screen it. They're probably going to have some questions and ask for some clarifications in the beginning. And that may go back and forth a couple of times. If it's going back and forth more than a couple of times, call me. We want to make sure that that process doesn't last too long. We want to keep this moving forward. And our office is, what we try to do is, if that goes back and forth a couple of times, for our staff to pick up the phone and call you and just do a consult. Because many times your answer to one question could trigger 2 or 3 additional questions. So sometimes it's best just to get on the phone and walk through the research and walk through the application and finish it up that way. And that way we can move it on to the next step, which would be the IRB actually looking at it. And there's several levels of IRB review. Sometimes it's one individual that's going to look at it, but if it's minimal risk types of research. Sometimes if it's greater than minimal risk, it'll be the full committee. Okay. So the IRB makes the decision. Typically, they're going to require some revisions or some changes. You can respond to those. The faster you respond, the quicker we get to that approval. And our office will relay that to you. Every bit of this happens within that IRB system. There's not emails or anything outside of the system typically. So it's going back and forth within that system. And, review the revisions. If you disagree with something they're asking you to do, it may be they misinterpreted something, especially, if it's the one reviewer, they just read it. They don't have a chance to talk to you like at a committee meeting. So in that instance, maybe just you need to clarify. So if you disagree, respond. Just don't leave it blank, because our office doesn't have the authority to say, well, you got 85% of the changes, that's good enough. You know, every one of them has to be addressed one way or the other. And then after that, if there's not any further back and forth through this loop, then once you have those required changes in place, you would get your IRB approval and you would be able to start the research. Getting started, we do have a getting started website. If you go to our homepage, right there at the beginning on this, on the header bar, it's going to walk you through things like, is IRB review needed? You'll find that video there. Required training, you'll find those links. Review introductory resources, that's where that welcome video is, as well as on our training and education page, which is right here. How to complete the IRB submission, protocol specific requirements. So this gives you links to things like I want to enroll vulnerable population, or I want to do deception research, or I have some non-English speaking folks. What do I do about that? So those are protocol specific requirements. It will talk to you about preparing informed consent materials is number 6, obtaining signatures and submitting. So we're going to whiz through some of this, but every bit of this is available on that Get Started website. Okay. Start early, ask advice, kind of plan for the end of the study at the beginning of the study. There are some requirements to maintain your records. We'll make sure you're aware of those. And my advice, usually if it's a first protocol application, keep it simple as possible. I mean, sometimes we'll get applications that have vulnerable populations, focus groups, surveys, intervention. It's just so much, you know, so many hoops to jump through. So sometimes it might be a survey is enough to start with. Recognize your subject population. So if that survey you're doing asks questions about others, you might have 2 populations. An example would be if I do a survey on illegal behaviors and I ask you about your parents' drug use. Okay, now I have 2 subject populations, right? So recognize that will help you as well. Consider flexibilities. So you don't want to box yourself in at all. Make sure you have plenty of enrollment. So if I want to get 50 completed surveys, I'm going to put, you know, at least 200 people, because some people are going to quit that survey. I mean, that type of thing. I wouldn't get the completed number I needed. So overestimate things like the number of to enroll or the time it's going to take you to complete the study, because those things are asked in the application. You want to clarify what's research and what's going to happen to these individuals irrespective of the research, okay? Only describe risks from what your research brings to the table. And I can tell you, senior researchers and faculty sometimes fall short on this. It's sometimes easy to make this mistake. So you don't want to describe a lot of risk from interventions or interactions that are going to take place irrespective of your research. So we'll look at a real quick, simple example. A local school system has decided to employ a new online learning platform. For your research, you want to survey the teachers on the current platform and repeat the survey in 3 months after the launch of the new platform, get their perceptions and so forth. What risk do you describe in your IRB submission for the IRB to consider? So we're going to launch a poll here. So your alternatives are technical issues for the teachers, learning gaps for the students, confidentiality for the survey responses, or all the above. Okay, it looks like about 10, 11, 12, 13. Looks like everybody pretty much has answered. All right, answer in the poll. Stop sharing. Is actually C, confidentiality of the survey responses. because the school system has already decided to employ this new online learning platform, right? That's happening irregardless of your study. Your study is this part right here. You plan to survey the teachers. So those are issues. I mean, technical problems on behalf of the teachers are certainly risk, but they're not risk of your research. Those are going to happen irrespective. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Because it gets confusing. You want to describe all of this. It's part of your research, and you can put that in the background, but just don't add it to the risk. You don't want the IRB considering things that are not part of your research in the risk benefit assessment. Okay. All righty. These are just some simples we're going to whiz through. There's going to be some things that are not going to apply to your research in that application. Just put not applicable. Include your advisor as contact. When you submit, it's going to take you, there's a few signatures that have to be obtained. So each time it's going to come back to you to resend for those signatures. It isn't until you sign yourself a final time and hit submit that it comes over to the Office of Research Integrity. And the way you know that's happened is you're going to see it all grayed out. So you're going to have a read-only copy that you can no longer edit. And at that point, it's over in our court. So I just mentioned that because sometimes people have gotten through the first signature and then it never got any further and they thought it went on to us and it did not. So we didn't even know at that point. So we want to make sure you understand that several signatures and you're the final. Attach anything that the IRB needs to see. So any participant facing material like recruitment material, surveys, that type of thing, you only need to put it in once, but you do upload those. And if you don't have that worked out in the beginning, you could submit it as a modification. Make sure training up for all of your study personnel are up to date. Look for inconsistencies or copy paste errors. Those are the common things. A lot of times just having somebody read it for you is helpful that's not familiar. And I mentioned that there's several levels of research review. So when it comes time, go to that Getting Started website. And one of those steps is figuring out whether your research might be minimal risk and qualify for exempt or expedited review by one IRB member. We will help you with that as well if you just get in touch with us. Okay? This is your IRB approval criteria. Shouldn't be too surprising. It literally is straight out of the Belmont principles. Okay. You see privacy, confidentiality, risk, benefit, informed consent. And with informed consent, it's one of my favorite topics. Love informed consent. I'm not going to go through all of the steps here, but the thing about it is you want people to understand what they're getting into, and it needs to be in language they can understand. You need to make sure they understand, and that's by not saying, do you understand? It's by testing their comprehension and then making sure that they recognize that this is voluntary. And someone in the chat mentioned, tell them their options. That's perfect. Your options are doing A, B, C, or not even participating at all, okay? Especially if you have a vulnerable population like K through 12 students, because nothing is voluntary in that age group, right? I mean, anything in the school system's typically required. So making sure they appreciate this time, this is totally voluntary. You get to choose. And you will designate anyone on your study that is you want to be approved to obtain informed consent. This is our informed consent website. All things informed consent will be here, how to create one, our template examples. So we have examples that you can use for surveys where you know, some of which you may not need to get a signature on, population specific, translated forms, that type of thing. So every tool you need is here for informed consent. Now, we talked about the importance of getting informed consent. But be aware, I'm just going to play a little bit of this, that there is possibility for the IRB to waive informed consent. And I had a question on retrospective record review, and that's why I want to share just a little bit. We won't play the whole thing, but I want to share some of it. And watch it not play. Here we go. Oh, where'd it go?
Research involving human subjects requires investigators to obtain informed consent from prospective participants, or their legally authorized representatives, LAR, before participating in research. Informed consent is not just a document. It is an ongoing educational process between the investigator and the prospective subject. However, in certain circumstances, the federal regulations permit the IRB to waive or alter the informed consent. Altering would involve omitting any one of required elements of informed consent, or waive signatures of informed consent, which means that no signatures are required. To approve a request to waive or alter informed consent, the research should meet the following criteria. One example of an alteration of informed consent would be a study using deception practices, where disclosing the full study purpose in advance would bias the results. In this case, the researcher provides full information after subjects participate, and they can then choose whether their data will be included in the study. An example of research, which may qualify for a complete waiver of consent, is a large retrospective record review, where contacting people for their permission would not be feasible. Keep in mind that practicable is not the same thing as practical. For these situations, the researcher has to show that the study can't really be conducted without the waiver.
The IRB may waive the signatures requirements if the research meets one of the following conditions. Let's look at a couple of examples where someone can request a waiver of consent signatures. Let's say a researcher wants to do research on stigmatized behaviors, and simply being linked to the study could affect the subjects in a negative way. This might qualify for the waiver under Option 1, and the subjects have to be given the choice of whether to sign the form or not. If a researcher is doing a study with minimal risk online surveys and interviews, they could complete the waiver request under Option 2. This option requires that the study be low risk, and that the procedures are things that would not need a signed form if they were done for non-research purposes, like surveys. Now, let's consider research in locations, or with cultures where signing documents isn't customary. In that case, Option 3 could apply, because asking for a signature would violate the social norms of that culture.
Does FDA-regulated research allow these waivers?
FDA-regulated research does allow a total waiver for minimal risk research.
Okay, we're going to stop that right there, though. So, as much as we say informed consent, it is possible for a waiver. So, we were talking, someone asked about a retrospective record review. So, what's practicable? If you had maybe 20 records you wanted to review, you could get informed consent over the phone even, and the IRB could waive the requirement for the signature. But 500 records, that would be an issue. Okay. I see a note that you can't see the video. Were you able to see it once I moved it up? You were okay?
No,
Not at all?
not at all.
Oh, that's interesting. It was right on my screen that I was sharing. Don't know why. Okay, sorry about that. So any questions about that? You heard a little bit about what the IRB can waive. So you can waive the entire informed consent process. You can alter and eliminate one, and then like one element of informed consent, like the purpose, if you're doing deception research, or you can ask the IRB to waive the signature in certain situations. So those are the waivers if needed. If you decide you need one of these, just take a look at the video, take a look at the information on our website, and that'll help you work through that. All righty, so sorry about that. Let's move. Okay, so you can still see the slides, okay, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So after IRB review, we talked about revisions. You'll look at the all comments section to see those. Faster that you can respond, the better. And then ask help when you need it. And that's kind of the theme for today. Just come to us when you need us. After your approval, you want to stick to your protocol. If you want to change something, that's fine, but you need to bring it in as a modification request before you implement the change. And then if things happen, and you're dealing with people, things do happen. Sometimes there could be a breach of confidentiality or a complaint of a privacy breach, those kind of things. And you report them. You just bring them into the IRB and we can help you work through that. Okay. At the end of the study, you do want to retain your IRB records for a period of 6 years. I know that's kind of long. The HIPAA regulation forced us to go to a 6-year period. And that's things like your signed approval letters, informed consents, signed informed consents, things like that. All right, we're getting to question time. If at this point you don't have questions, but at the point that you do get involved and you are submitting for IRB approval, we do have office hours where we, twice a month, we'll set up a Zoom session and just answer questions. Several of us attend those in our staff. Sometimes IRB members come. Also, you can request an individual consult if you prefer to get help that way. You can contact us at any time as well. Sign up for our listserv if you want to hear about additional opportunities for education. There's IRB general emails. If you had trouble, say for instance, figuring out which training, just email Human Subject Protection Training Support and we can help you with that. Protocol questions, ERB technical problems. Reliance is if you are collaborating with someone at an additional or separate institution. And that brings us to questions. What kind of things can you all think of that we haven't already addressed? We covered it all, you think? How many of you all, has anybody participated in research? You can raise your little hand on Zoom or you can tell us about it.
I'm currently working in a research project.
So you're study personnel on a research project. Awesome.
I am. I've worked on a couple.
So if you have questions, you know where to go. You have a peer to help you. That's wonderful. Also, how many of you all have been a participant in a study, a subject, a research subject? Has anyone done that? Yeah. Okay. There's one. Few. That's something I totally recommend. It's just a great way. My kids have been in studies. They love it. You can make a little stipend. Okay. That's not a bad thing. I'm not mad about that. And it's a great way to learn about the consent process. There's some that I think they did a fantastic job with that informed consent. There's others I'm thinking, oh, we got issues, not such a good job. So, it's a good way to learn. Good way to make you a better researcher, I think. All right, I guess we'll finish on time. If there's no other questions, you know where to find us. I'll provide a copy of this. And, if you have any additional questions, call us. You know where the website is. We're available.